3D art. It's always been something so intimidating to me. You got 3D modeling, character modeling, rigging, animation, particle simulation, fluid simulation. You see why I'm intimidated, right? I'm just a filmmaker. I only know a bit about cameras, lighting, screenwriting, drones, Premiere Pro, After Effects, DaVinci Resolve, Photoshop, guitar, long walks with my dog. What were we talking about? Oh yeah. Even though it is intimidating, I've always had this itch to learn. But the problem was I couldn't scratch that itch because, well, it was just so damn intimidating. So I decided not to pursue it. That is until I saw Unreal Engine 5 and what it could do. I mean, you got virtual production, megascan assets, metahumans, and so much more. And the best part, it's free. I had to learn the software, right? I think I just need the right motivation.
So it's my pleasure to introduce to you the Eternal Ascent 3D Community Challenge.
I thought to myself, this would be the perfect way to put pressure on myself to finally learn this program. But the immediate question that was on my mind was, did I even have a chance at making the top 100? Be honest, do you think in 3 weeks I can achieve something like that? The very, very little experience.
I think you should try, and I think that you'll learn a lot.
3 weeks.
Yeah.
I've never done it before.
I have very little experience. You know, you see me, I played around with Unreal Engine 5.
Do stuff like this. So.
Yeah, this is crazy. This is gonna be a challenge. Let's get started, I guess. The first step was the idea and compiling the references. And spoiler alert, this was the first of many mistakes I made in this video. So I got 4 ideas. I'm still trying to figure out which one I want to do. But I'm gonna keep these 4 ideas and start gathering some images. The next step was to download the template file, which is what everyone starts with. By the way, I do have a little experience with Unreal Engine 5. I already know my way around the program, but that's about it, although it does go a long way. After refamiliarizing myself with the program, I blocked out the scene. So the idea I went with was a man walking up the stairs overlooking a sand dune environment because, you know, I love my sand dunes. There's also going to be 3 gateways showcasing 3 different worlds: fantasy, cyberpunk, and a space station. Don't ask me how I'm gonna do the portals because I have no idea. And here's the thing, I'm a complete noob. I don't know anything about 3D modeling, so I'm going to need some assets. Okay, it's day 4, and I feel like I blocked out the scene, but I'm still missing assets. Yeah, right now I just discovered, I've known about Kitbash 3D. I've even bought their Cyberpunk kit, but I just found out they have something called Cargo, and for $100 a month, you can get all their kits. And I'm very tempted to do it. See, I'm looking at this treasure shit because I had an idea of having like a flying ship cruising around, and looking at it, it looks good. And then this right here, yo, this looks cool. I'm just looking at the vehicles tab. Oh, yeah, instead of paying like, you know, $300 per like kit. Oh, Valhalla, that could be like the fantasy world. Let me show you what I've got so far. So this is what I have so far, right? Kind of like just, we have our 3 portals. That's gonna be the fantasy portal right there. This is gonna be like the urban portal. This right here is gonna be the sci-fi portal. And again, I know this is a pretty ambitious idea because I not only have to worry about the environment, I also have to worry about 3 different environments. I might keep it simple. I also have to worry about how to do the portal effect. So the sci-fi one is going to be a planet or a space station kind of like this. That's what I'm thinking. With a bunch of spaceships heading towards it. This is a shot from Ready Player One. City, I don't really have an idea for the city yet. But the fantasy world, I'm thinking a floating island like this might be cool, right? So I know what I want to do is I want to put an outpost here I want to put a city here with a road that leads into the little portal right here, and then I want to put like some sort of like village here, and then a little like outpost here. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm making okay progress. I could be doing better. But again, like I haven't touched this program in like years, so one thing I want to say is that like in the first 2 to 3 days, I was kind of lost. I didn't know what exactly to work on. Like I was like, okay, create the environment, block it out, and then I was like kind of messing around with Maximo. I wanted to add a flying character just to get an idea of what I want to do, and then I kind of got lost in trying to figure that out. That's just like something I should focus on later. Right now, I should only be focused on the environment. So I went ahead and bought the cargo membership, played around with the texture of the sand dunes, added a little tower to the staircase, and even started on the space environment so I could finally work on the portals. To be honest, it wasn't all that difficult. I don't want to go too much into detail, but it involved creating a scene capture cube, something like an HDRI of the level, I think, then making it into a material and applying a plane surface. I know I'm dumbing it down, but I didn't understand the process all that well. The difficulty was more in finding the right angle that looks good on the main camera in the main level, and also the amount of processing power needed to render 3 worlds at the same time. Anyway, as I was building this scene out, I was also discovering the story. So the basic story was that this world was a virtual world, or like a lobby where people could traverse to different worlds via these gateways. People would trek up this tall watchtower and traverse into these portals using either paragliders, flying cars, ships, etc. It was really dependent on what they could afford. I wanted to create the same kind of vibe as Ready Player one of my favorite movies and definitely my favorite book. So the next step was to add animations. I knew I was definitely going to try the Rococo vision for this project, but for now, I'll just be using some temp animations. So I went over to Mixamo, downloaded some animations, and finally figured out how to use it. Then I sprinkled some temp animations throughout the shot. It looked like it was finally coming together. I'm gonna be honest, a little overwhelmed right now. I don't know if I can say I'm even proud of this. It feels like it's just a jumbled mess. I don't know if it's because it's still rough or something. I don't know. Like there's still a lot of work to do. Like there are times I don't even want to work on this. But I've been learning a lot. It's been a lot of fun trying to figure this out. Like I am so out of my depth here. Like I have no idea sometimes what I'm doing. It's a good feeling and a bad feeling. I feel like that's always been me. Like I have this mentality that I need to figure out myself, and I waste a lot of time trying to figure out myself where I could have watched it and I end up watching a tutorial like, oh yeah, that's easy. Honestly, this is not bad. I like this a lot. I was 14 days into the challenge and things were looking good. I bought a floating island pack for my fantasy world, and I fine-tuned the 3 extra environments. The next step now was to add a metahuman to my main character. This would be easy, right? Wrong. This was when my late nights of troubleshooting began. I literally spent the entire night trying to figure out how to retarget my metahuman to Clint's mocap template mannequin. Turns out, I just need to set the metahuman skeletal mesh compatible skeleton to the UE5 skeletal mesh. Then adjust the metahuman with the FK control rig, which Clint and Sam did in their live stream. If only I watched that first. Then I also dived into the world of EBDs. I really wanted to do a floating island world, so I bought CloudForge to create that look. Little did I know that it would be very taxing on the system and cause a lot of frustration in the future. With the main character finally replaced, it felt like my vision was finally coming together. Now, it was about time to finally try out Rococo Vision with my friends. This day was not only about motion capture animations, but it was also to get everyone's opinion on the project. This was important because I actually haven't showed anyone yet.
Come on. Yeah. You know we gotta get loud. I said we're gonna get loud. You know we gotta get loud. Yeah, come on.
Alright, Alex, so what were the notes?
Keep it simple. make sure that it incorporates, that it flows well with the main scene. And this one's a little tougher because what? The guy's just walking up the stairs, so...
The main focus is the environment. So I wanted to do something creative where you have 3 portals. I'm already there, like I could change the idea, but like...
I mean, like, look, I like the whole paragliding thing. Or the things that you have, go ahead and just make them more...
The animation is going to be refined because the animation is I'm going to give it wobble and all that. Henry, any advice for me?
Yeah, I think like what he said, like the background, the lighting, he says the sand dunes could use a little bit of work. I thought it looked pretty realistic.
That ship coming down, at first I thought it was a glitch when I saw it.
Yeah? Was it because like...
I don't know. It just
too fast?
Out of nowhere, I don't know what it was, but...
I mean, once you see...
Then I saw it fly off in the distance, I'm like, oh, that's what that was. So that the flying away thing is fine, but the way it came down was like, it just kind of took me away. Like it made me go.
Maybe once you see it like interact with the environment, because right now it looks like a glitch because it's not doing anything. Maybe I'll put like some dust particles on the thing so when it comes down, there's a way to do it. I don't know. What do you think of the worlds beyond the portals?
I mean, I had the second time around, I saw what it was. At first, I'm like, I really couldn't tell what it was because I had my focus on what was in front of me. The thing that came down was like startled me, and then back to okay, the guy's walking up, all right.
Maybe bring the portals closer.
That might be the key.
Okay, I actually have that. Any last advice for me?
Yeah, don't have that chip on your shoulder.
Yeah, don't beat myself up.
Yeah.
I know. After getting everyone's opinion on the project, I felt disheartened. The advice I got was really helpful, but there was something wrong. Remember how I said I made a mistake around the idea stage? This was it. The mistake I made was not having a clear story that matched my skill level. Everyone was giving me different ideas of what they thought it was, which clearly shows that the story isn't clear. I needed a clear story. Something that anyone would see and know exactly what the story was. So that night, I laid in my bed and just brainstormed. The new idea had to have a few criteria. 1, it had to match the mocap data we just did. 2, it had to include the same assets I've already bought to justify the money I spent. And 3, it had to be simple enough for me to complete within the deadline. After a few hours, I made the tough decision to restart the entire project 7 days before the due date. I told myself if I could create a working scene that same night, I could still make the deadline. So I jumped to work. Utilizing everything I've learned in the past few weeks, this is what I built so far. The new story I went for was fantasy versus sci-fi. In a world full of floating islands, a robot army comes in and occupies the people. This definitely felt more clear to me. The staircase led up to the castle that was occupied by robots, and the main character walking up the staircase was a rebel knight. I was planning on making the big sphere in the background a robotic eye to make the scene more menacing. I used Megascan assets for the ground below, the same floating island pack for the islands in the background, and the Dark Fantasy Castle pack from Cargo for the castle. As I continued, I felt more and more that this was the right direction. Once I had a good layout for the scene, I added the mocap data to the metahumans, which worked out very well even though it was for the original idea. I added in some cool samurai robots I found and animated these poses. I also added the robotic eye. We were 6 days away from the deadline and things were looking good. Every free time I had was put towards this project. So the next step was to add in the main character. It took a minute to try and find the perfect Dark Knight character. I finally found one and easily retargeted him to the template mannequin. At first everything worked, then this happens. I tried messing with the cloth simulation, re-downloading the asset, nothing worked. I was 5 days away and I decided just to bite the bullet. I spent money on another asset and luckily this one worked perfectly. The next day I decided to add some drones trying to block the main character's path. I thought this would further add to the story. I have to say, animating these drones were some of the most fun I had during the challenge. I tried Embergen, but gave up when I couldn't figure out how to import it. I also tried to add a waterfall, but also gave that up too. The deadline was approaching, so I really had to pick and choose what I wanted to work on. I decided to work on the thrusters for the drones. I used a thruster from a VFX pack I got from Unreal Marketplace. I didn't like the fire part of the thruster, so I decided just to remove it and just keep the heat distortion. At this point, I think I created 80% of the scene. Now it was time to dial in the lighting and add the details. You could probably tell my favorite type of lighting is backlighting. I decided to empty my bank account and buy ultra dynamic sky and a background bird system, which will help the scene a ton. Then I did something I should have done a while ago. I added a post-process volume. This was where I could add motion blur, lens flares, chromatic aberration, and everything else. When it comes to making this look cinematic, this was probably the most important step. Also tried adding a cargo drone that carried cargo through a rope, but I didn't have much success with that. So I just created a regular cargo drone. Then, for even more detail, I added cables throughout the scene to give the castle more of an occupied look. After finalizing the scene, I decided to get some feedback from my friends again. I took most of the important notes that my friends gave me and ran with it. I changed the materials of the drone and replaced the signs with weapons instead. I added swords to the samurai robots, then even added a stomp animation from them. I decided to get rid of the eye, it just looked fake to me. I tried adding god rays, but I couldn't figure that out. Then I tried adding lasers to the drones, but again, couldn't figure it out. I only had 2 days left, so I couldn't waste any more time. I really wish I had this idea at the beginning of the challenge, but there's nothing I can do about it at this point. I just had to render the damn thing. 2 days left and the scene won't render. Nothing worked. I kept trying over and over again with different settings. The scene kept failing. I learned that it was DirectX 12 that was failing, which sucked because I really wanted to render with path tracing. Probably for the better. I didn't know this at the time, but path tracing significantly increased the render time. Anyway, it didn't matter. I had to continue rendering. I went into the settings and changed it to DirectX 11. This time it worked. Sometimes. I decided to render with no anti-aliasing for testing. Some worked and some had failed. I decided to take my chances and let it render the entire night. This time I added back anti-aliasing, which reduces artifacts. I also increased the resolution. This had to work or else I would be screwed. As I feared, the render failed and I had to render it out again. This time, if this failed, I really would be screwed. So I'm on my way to a shoot right now, and it's rendering right now. It's gonna take 6 hours, and it's doing 10 hours. And I am nervous as hell right now, because I just found out that the backup that I exported before this, it's being overridden by the new render, because I didn't put it in a new folder. So right now, I don't have a backup, and if this render doesn't come out good, then I don't know. I'm just gonna have to use a previous version. Again, as I feared, the render failed. At this point, I just needed something. So I decided not to do any anti-aliasing again because it was just adding way too much time to the render. As I rendered, I decided to color grade a previous version while the new one was being rendered. This had to work, or else that's it. And I definitely mean it this time. There's only a few hours left now. Luckily, the render was successful, and I immediately replaced the backup with a new export. I'm not really proud of the grade, and I was running out of time, so I just decided to go with it. After a stressful few hours, I was finally able to deliver the latest version an hour before the due date. I can't stress enough the relief I felt. Now, it was time to wait for the judgment. As you can see, I didn't make the top 100, which is to be expected. If I'm being honest, I am a bit disappointed. I mean, I was very much out of my league. By the 5th submission, I realized I had no chance. But I can't stress enough how glad I am that I did this challenge. I finally scratched that 3D art itch, and I learned a lot. Not just about 3D art, but about learning itself. I've always been a fan of project-based learning, but during this challenge, I think I might have found a downside. I've noticed that I only learn what I need to learn for the project, which can sometimes make you skip the fundamentals. And the fact that I was on a deadline didn't help at all. By the way, everyone that I saw in the top 100 deserved to be there. I mean, I was just blown away by the submissions, and I'm just happy I participated in something as amazing as the Eternal Ascent challenge. I'm in the all renders montage if you want to check me out. Timestamp is in the description. Also, So a lot was happening during the process of this video. I was moving during the challenge, so that's why my room was changing so much throughout the video. I also moved again during the process of editing, which is why this video is like a year after the challenge itself. Also because it was a pretty busy year for me. Although I'm not gonna lie, I can't shake this feeling that I've failed. I mean, it would have been a great video if a guy with no 3D art experience made it into the top 100. I'm realizing now that sounds a bit delusional. I mean, I'm competing against like the top professionals in the industry, but I'll tell you this, someday I will make it to the top 100. I am officially adding that to my bucket list. Until then, I'll be practicing. I'll see you in the next video.